Hi, my name is Morgan Thomas, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to throw a clay pot on a pottery wheel. So the first step is going to be centering your clay, and as you can see, I just took my chunk of clay and I patted it on the wheel. You can hit it pretty hard to get it to stick. This is very important, if not your clay is just going to slide around the wheel, which you don't want because you won't be able to complete the next step, which is centering your clay. Now, as you can see here, I'm taking and placing my right hand on my right thigh and keeping it steady. And then with my left hand, I'm taking and pushing the clay into my right hand. With this right hand, I'm keeping it in one place. That's very important. That's what's going to really center your clay. Um, and when you're centering, to start, you want to make sure your hands are thoroughly wet but not too wet. And what I mean by this is you want to make sure that your hands aren't sticking, but you also want to make sure your hands aren't too wet or your clay is going to slide around. Now, when you're throwing, you want to make sure you're patient. If not, you're just going to end up with a hot mess that's off-centered and is eventually going to get air bubbles and just fly off the wheel. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm raising up my clay and then I'll bring it back down to make sure it's fully centered, which is another reason why you have to be patient. It takes multiple times to center your clay, so if you don't get it on the first time, definitely don't stress. Personally, for me, centering the clay is the hardest part, and really practice makes perfect. Now with this next step, I'm going to hollow out the center of my clay, which is going to create the pot shape that we're going for. I'm taking both of my thumbs and I'm taking plenty of water. As you can see there, I just took and dripped as much water as possible into the center of the clay, because at this point the clay is being squished, so it's going to absorb a lot of water. And like I said before, you don't want your clay to stick to your hands. If not, it's just going to rip apart. Now you're going to continue to press down with both thumbs until you reach the desired depth that you want for your pot. One thing that I find really helpful is taking your time when selecting where to press. If you press outside of the middle, then your pot is going to get off balance and off centered. So the past step is useless. Now the next step is going to be raising the walls of your pot. And what you can see here is I'm taking my left hand and pinching the walls and slowly bringing it up while keeping my right hand in the same place to keep my pot centered and to kind of guide the walls up. Obviously, if you want a wider pot, you can angle your hand to where it allows it to go out instead of up. Here I have my hand pretty straight up, but later in the video you'll see I tilt my hand out, which allows it to stretch out. Now what I'm accomplishing with this is I'm thinning the walls and I'm making the pot bigger, not necessarily deeper. You can see that you can obviously use your right hand as well to pinch. I find it's a lot easier just to use one hand. If not, it can get off-centered really easily and just break apart. One thing to remember with this step is to be really patient. If you go too fast and try to raise your walls too quick, it'll rip apart and rip in half a lot of the time. And definitely remember that practice makes perfect when you're throwing a clay pot. So if you don't succeed the first time, definitely just keep trying over and over again. Thanks for watching my video today, and this was how to throw a basic clay pot.